Governor Dan Patrick.
Thank you all. Thank you. James, can I do this one? We'll give you that one back. Okay, we'll do that one. Thank you so much. That was very kind of you. I'm going to take my jacket off. Can I do that? I just feel like I want to be comfortable. First of all, plus I spilled pie all over at lunch today, so I didn't even eat the pie, I just spilled the pie. First of all, I want to thank you. Because without Tarrant County, I'm probably not standing here tonight as your Lieutenant Governor. Tarrant, Collin, Denton, Harris, Montgomery County, which is north of Harris, Smith County, Tyler, and out Lubbock, those 7 counties that I mentioned determine who your statewide officials are who win primaries. That's where the vote is. And I thank you for trusting me with your vote. And I thank you, I can remember like it was yesterday, it's been 3 years, can you believe it? 2 at least, because we started 13 and 14, where there were 4 of us and there were 2 of us. And I'll tell you a backstory that in 2013, when I was in the state senate, I was there for 8 years, I was chair of education that year. At the end of the session, I decided to run for lieutenant governor. I just felt like we needed a change of direction. It wasn't personal, change of direction. And I didn't know Jonathan Stickler very well. I knew him by his reputation. And with conservatives, it's a very good reputation. And this guy comes waltzing by. I sat on the front row on the corner desk. He comes waltzing by and he says, I just want to let you know if you run for lieutenant governor, I want to help you. He was the first person that said that to me. And that inspired me to talk to and reach out to some of your friends from this very conservative area. And those, I guess it was about 8 or 9 House members, all conservative, put themselves on the line for me. And what made me feel gratified was, the truth was, I kind of said, why? I really don't know these folks. And I mean, I knew about them, but I didn't really know them. Some were brand new, so we hadn't carried bills with them. And he said, because we looked at your record, and you've been a leader as a conservative senator, and you fought the good fight. And they were looking for leadership in the Senate. And so it was very important. Second thing that happened, where's Julie? Julie, where are you? Julie, at a very early meeting, we met at, was it not a church, but it was a crowded, it was very full. Do you remember where we met back 3 years ago? I don't know.
It was a church.
It was a church. And there was a kitchen, and there was food, and I went back, and you endorsed me before I really knew her. And she said, and I said, I want to thank you. I mean, we talked on the phone, and I was doing all my phone calls, and she said, I just want to let you know I'm going to hold you accountable. And those are great words to hear. Because if you believe in what you're saying, if you're going to stand up and fight for those things you believe in, holding someone accountable, you actually want to be held accountable. Any elected official who kind of, that gives them a chill up the back, that's probably not the person you want to vote for or support. So Tarrant County was just so important in the election, and this Tea Party group was so important, because you are one of the, I'm not going to say the most preeminent, because we have some great other Tea Parties in Texas, and I don't want to offend anyone. I want to be fair to everyone. But you are one of the, and a very short list, as Rush Limbaugh would say, very short list of one of the preeminent conservative Tea Party, conservative organizations, whatever you want to label yourself in the United States. Not just Texas, but in the United States. I spoke to a group, I was in Denton County earlier today for lunch, and I spoke to a group of supporters there for Denton County, for their activities. And this is really true, and I don't want to blow smoke or put too much pressure on you. But the future of the United States, in large part, rests on your shoulders. And the future of the world, and here's why. The world needs a strong America, and America can only be strong if Texas is a strong conservative state. And the only way that we stay a strong conservative state is by the Tarrant County Tea Party and strong conservatives in those 6 or 7 counties, and other counties as well. But those 7 counties are the difference maker. So it really comes down to math. The world needs a strong America. America needs a strong Texas, at least if you're a conservative Republican. And in Texas, it's down to 7 counties. And in those 7 counties, it's down to a handful of groups. So I want you to know, I'm going to pass out some things here in a few moments to show you the difference that you make. It really is true. So don't ever step back from the fight. Don't ever think that what you're doing is not vitally important. If we lose Texas, and you all know this is a very sophisticated political group, but it's worth repeating. If we lose Texas to the Democrats, we never win the White House again, and this country is lost forever. We are the ones standing in the gap to hold America in place as long as we can until we get some other states to wise up. Because the road to the White House for anyone, and I was chair of the Ted Cruz campaign in Texas, now I'm chair of the Donald Trump campaign in Texas, the road to the White House is difficult for anyone. I mean, I was sharing with a reporter today on the way over here. We're talking about the election. If Trump wins Florida and North Carolina and Ohio, and he has to, if he wins those 3 and Iowa and Nevada and Arizona, he's still 5 votes short. 265 electoral votes. He has to pick up Colorado, or he has to pick up Pennsylvania. And if he were to lose Florida, Ohio, or North Carolina, he'd have to pick up Pennsylvania and another state. It's a tough path. So I'm hopeful that he's going to be able to get through that path and down that path. And I signed up to be his chair because when I was on Fox, many times when I was chair of Ted's campaign, where it was down to 2, I know I met some folks earlier who were in Iowa. Thank you for being in Iowa. I was in Iowa and South Carolina and Nevada with Ted, and he gave it all he could. It didn't work out at the end, but it wasn't for a lack of effort from he and Heidi in 12 to 15-hour days. But I'd be on, and Neil Cavuto would say, or Megyn Kelly would say, well, Governor, if Ted Cruz doesn't win, and Donald Trump wins, will you support him? I said, absolutely. Absolutely. And I expect all the Trump supporters to support Ted Cruz if he wins. Because these are the 2 men who garnered the majority of the votes, the majority of the delegates, and I'm going to be a delegate, and I'll be darned if I'm going to let the Republican Party try to parachute in a 3rd person that the people didn't support. So it was easy to make the decision for Trump. We spent 3 days together now in Texas. He's coming in tomorrow to San Antonio, Dallas, and we'll be traveling with him tomorrow. And so we're helping him raise money, but we're also, and Ray spoke earlier about the strike force. One of my jobs as chair is to help the mighty Trump Texas strike force. They've kind of renamed it, put the Trump in there with it, because we're known to send hundreds of volunteers to states. And it makes a difference at the end. So I'm also trying to raise money to help the people who go to the states, help pay some of their expenses if we can, because it's usually on your own nickel. It's important. So Texas can make a big difference. Maybe it's North Carolina, maybe it's Wisconsin, maybe it's New Mexico. I was in New Mexico last week. We actually have a shot there. 5 electoral votes. Remember when I said he's at 265 if he doesn't win Pennsylvania? Even New Hampshire, he's still at 269. New Mexico put him over the top. Now, they had written that state off, but God could be good. Gary Johnson, the former governor of New Mexico, when I was there last Wednesday, he was at 24% in the polls, Hillary was 35, Trump was 31. So if Gary Johnson does a little bit better, Trump could actually win the state because of Gary Johnson. So this election is not over. Last Friday was a tough day, and I'm glad he apologized, deserved to apologize. I thought he crushed her in the debate last night, quite frankly. I don't know what you all think. And I was asked by this Wall Street Journal reporter and a Houston Chronicle reporter on the way over, 2 different interviews, well, are people from Texas, conservative Christians like yourself, conservative voters, are they leaving Trump? And I said, no. I said, the truth is I have not had one person from our strike force contact our leaders to say, I'm not going. I had one donor back out of the fundraiser on Saturday, and they're back in. And I said, the reason is because whether you're an evangelical Christian whether you're a Tea Party conservative, whatever your persuasion of Republican that you are, you understand that as offensive as his language was, what is more offensive is taking the life of an innocent baby in the womb like Hillary Clinton will do. What is more offensive and dangerous than words is taking our guns from us, which she will do. What is more dangerous is destroying and shredding our Constitution by appointing liberal justices. On every issue, and that's why he did well last night, he focused on the issues. He did better than he did in the first debate. He focused on the issues. I actually think the third debate plays well for him for this reason. I'm not a big fan of Chris Wallace. I thought Chris Wallace was a little unfair I shouldn't say unfair, a little over the top in some of the primary debates. But Chris Wallace will follow up with tough questions on her and not let her off the hook. She's been off the hook in every debate from Bernie Sanders through last night in terms of the moderators. Chris Wallace will play hardball with both of them, and Trump's already used to hardball because they've been playing hardball with him and when Cruz was in it the whole time. So I feel good about the debate next week in Las Vegas. It's still a long way to go. I'm sure more dirt's going to fly before the end, probably against both of them. But we have to win this election. Another reason I signed on for the Trump team is what I said to start this with, and that's we are a Republican state. We must stay a Republican state. Well, Abbott and I, with your great help, won our election in 14 by 20 points. Now, we always do better. Thank you. You applaud yourself for that, but it was your victory. We won by 20 points because in the off year, in the gubernatorial election cycle, fewer Democrats voted. They just show up in presidential races at a higher number. So, Trump, for example, Romney won by 12. McCain won by 14. I don't want Donald Trump to win Texas by 4 or 5. Because what message will that send to the Democrats for 18? They'll say, gosh, I can hear it now. They'll contact George Soros and all the other billionaires who will funnel hundreds of millions into Texas and say, you know what, Abbott and Patrick and Paxson, they won by 20, but Trump only won by 4. We can turn this state around. Now, we'll still win, we'll prevail, because we are a Republican state, but it will be a challenge, and a challenge we can't risk. So it's important, and so one of the other goals to strike force in raising money is for us to be sure we get out the vote, and it was said earlier, vote from the White House to the courthouse Republican straight ticket, because I want Trump to win by 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever that number is. I've never seen an enthusiasm for a candidate like I've seen for him, and you all are enthusiastic for Jonathan. You all were enthusiastic for Ted. You were enthusiastic for me. But I've never gone to Austin, Texas, and seen 8,000 people show up for a Republican. And that's how many people were there that night. And had been there for 3 hours, standing, as they were in the Woodlands last time he was here. They show up at 5 o'clock and get in line. He doesn't get there until 8:30, and they're standing waiting for him. The enthusiasm gap. As long as the polls stay relatively close, and I do believe in the accuracy of polls. They've always been accurate in the polls I've been involved in, within the margin of error. If he stays within 3 or 4, even 5, going in 10 days out, I feel good, because it's the turnout that's the difference. And his people, all of you, will turn out. Her people, they're with her, but they're really not too excited about her. And last night, they're starting to worry. So that's why I'm in for Trump. That's why we need to vote Republican straight ticket. We need to re-elect and elect for the first time, those running for the first time, our judges, our sheriff. Where's our sheriff candidate? Okay, our sheriff, our DAs, our legislators. Pardon? Commissioners. Commissioners. Yeah. Everybody's down ballot. Everybody's on the ballot. We need to elect them. You know, and some Republicans will say, you know, we're independent. Right? That's kind of how you all were formed. Independent thinkers. And whenever I put it on Facebook, or when I used to do radio, Dan, I'm not going to vote for someone I don't know. Well, then you're going to help elect someone you don't like. Because we vet our candidates very well in Texas, and you know that 90% of the time, the people who get through the primary are pretty conservative. Well, they vet their candidates through the primary, and the people that get there are just this side of being a socialist. They're very liberal. There aren't any pro-life Democrats winning primaries. There aren't any pro-lower tax, smaller government, Constitution-loving, gun-loving Democrats who get through a primary. So when we're not voting for a Republican, we're voting for a liberal/socialist. And you got to tell your folks that. And most people won't ever meet the lieutenant governor, or their rep, or their senator, or the governor, but they may be before a judge. Whether it's probate court, civil court, hopefully not criminal court. But we need strong judges. We need strong votes. Because a party is built on the pyramid. The reason Wendy Davis, with all of her publicity, got squashed like a bug was because there's no foundation under the pyramid. The pyramid, if you put the governor at the top, lieutenant governor, the attorney general, your senators, your representatives, your local officials, your super, go down the list. They all bring out the vote. The county commissioners help the up ticket helps the down ticket. It's hard for the Democrats to come in and just shave off the top and say we're going to become governor because they have no support. So that's why we have to keep our pyramid strong. And it builds our bench for the future. I'm not going to be around forever. I mean, we move on. And so we need that strong team on the bottom. Now, I want to share something with you about this session. And Celinda, many of you remember Celinda from my campaign. We hired her into our office now. Celinda was another reason I won. Celinda, if you'll pass, it's going to take a few minutes. Do you have some helpers?
Yes.
Can we get some helpers? Okay. And by the way, Julie, does it really cost $600 to rent this? Okay. I didn't put $20 or $40 on the plate, but I will send you a check and I will pay the $600 for this month's meeting. Okay, just in a second. Happy to do it. Happy to do it. Now, as this, oh, what did I do with my jacket, James? Where's? Oh, so let me have my jacket back because I have my notes in there. I usually don't need notes, but. We don't have enough of these for everybody, which is good news. You have a big crowd, so share a little bit. Now I'm going to do the other one first. So, last session, and Jonathan, would you say it was the most conservative, efficient session ever in the Senate history?
Oh, yes. Yes.
He said yes.
The House.
The House. Look, there are lots of good conservative members in the House. There are lots of good conservative members in the House. So what I want to do is, if you'll turn when you get this, it says 2015 session accomplishments. And this is focused on the Senate. I write about what we do in the Senate. That's my job, is to pass good conservative legislation out of the Senate. And I'm not going to go through every bill. You can take this home and read it. But when you go through property tax relief, and it was, as I said, just the first step, increasing the homestead exemption from $15,000 to $25,000 was the first time it's been done in 20 years. And I'm going to give you the ending to this as I go through. And we also, in the Constitution, what most people don't know about SJR1 and SB1 was that many states have a sales tax when you sell your property. I didn't ever want that to happen in Texas, because can you imagine 2% on every farm, ranch, building, home that's sold, how much money that would generate? I wanted to take that off the table forever. So if you didn't realize it, when you voted last November for this bill, we have put in the Constitution we can never have a sales tax on the sale of property in Texas. That was a big deal. Our Senate Bill number 2 was the budget. Jay Nelson is the best finance chair we've ever had in the history of the state of Texas. What normally happens, we have our budget and the House has their budget, and then we have a conference committee, 5 senators, 5 House members, and they go together. And every other session in modern history, they come out and the budget's always bigger. This session, when they came out, the budget was smaller. Because that's what we said we were going to do. Something else we did, and this was what Greg Abbott and I decided to do, and we got the speaker to agree, is our budget is set in this manner. In January, Glenn Hager sets a budget of how much we can spend. It takes 2/3 vote, 100 House members or 21 senators, to bust the cap. We're never going to do that on our watch. So he tells us what we can spend. Every other session in history, and I'm talking about modern history, 20, 30 years, every other session, even the Republicans and the Democrats spend almost all the money. They make a couple $100 million. whatever the budget is. And remember, our budget's $104 billion. That's what it was last session. It's a big budget. Greg Abbott and I said, you know, we're not confident where the economy is going in the price of oil, so we're going to hold $6 billion back. We held $6 billion back, and thank goodness, because that was a projected $6 billion, and today that $6 billion has dwindled down to less than $2. So we would have been $4 billion more in the hole going in. So we passed a very conservative budget, below population and inflation. Border security, I campaigned on, we're going to spend $800 million, that's what DPS said they needed. The House had a $500 million bill, we ended up at the $800 million number. Transportation funding, we put $2.5 billion more in transportation without any increase in fees or taxes. So over the last 2 sessions, we put about close to $4.5 billion or so more into transportation because it's vital to our economy. Senate Bill 6, A through F. One of the most important things we can do, I passed as chair of education, our districts to be A through F, so that you know how your school district is going. Well, starting in 2 years, every school in the state of Texas will be rated A through F. And when Mama, let me tell you, go ahead and applaud that. That is a big movement towards competition schools. Because when you drive down the street and if you see a C on your marquee in front of your elementary school, Mama's going to say, why are we a C? Why are we a B? And in the few states that have done this, it has brought more competition than anything else that they've ever done. In Florida, it was an afterthought, and it turned out to be one of the most important things they have done. Franchise tax reduction. Number 7, 25%. We're going to get rid of the franchise tax, but we cut it $2 billion for small business. The small business exemption, the tighter spending limit, go down through these campus carry, open carry. I mean, there were so many things that happened last session. It was hard to put out a mailer on what was accomplished in the Senate, and many of these bills got through the House because we did something that my predecessor, no disrespect, but had never done before. We got our bills out in April, and not at the end of May. So we sent them over to the House, and then let you all weigh in. And let Jonathan and his friends weigh in, correct? Correct. Never happened before. And I believe in getting things, we had 22 priorities. We ended up passing 19 or 20 out of the Senate. Of the 22 I had on my list, now not everyone made it through the House. But we had them almost all out in April. Usually they would come out in late May and they'd get bottled up. So they may have been killed, but they weren't killed because they were bottled up. There were some other pieces of important legislation that we passed. I'll just highlight a few. The Pastor Protection Act. We said in the Senate that we are not going to force a pastor to perform a gay or lesbian wedding against their faith. And we plan to expand on this bill next session. The second thing we did, how long have you all been saying, can you pass a bill for American law, for American courts? Most people don't know. We did in the Senate last session. And that didn't make it through the House. How long have you said, we want to move the public integrity unit out of Travis County, and we did. And how many times have you said, we end the gas tax diversion, take the gas tax and put it into roads where it should go? And we did. Now, who gets the credit for all this? You do. You do. You elected me, I campaigned on these things. You elected Greg Abbott. He supported and campaigned these things. You elected conservative senators. We had 8 freshman conservatives in the Senate last time out of 20 Republicans. You've elected conservative after conservative after conservative into the legislature, the House and the Senate. You have changed the makeup of our government in Texas. When I was elected to the Senate in 2007, there were 20 Republicans. And of those 20, there were 3 rock-solid conservatives. I was one of the 3. And some people were conservative on certain issues, and some people were conservative on other issues, but consistently not. We had a lot of moderates. They're all gone. They're all gone. Now, some ran for higher office, like Ken Paxton, who's doing a fabulous job as our attorney general. And Glenn Hager, who's doing a fabulous job as our controller. So 3 of us and myself, we ran. Others were defeated. Others retired. Others got the message. So it's been amazing. So when I go back in January 2017, this is an amazing number. In 2007, just 5 sessions ago, there were 20 Republican senators. I was one of the 20. Of those 20, only 3 are left. 17 have either been defeated, called it quits, or moved to a higher position. And you replace them all over the state, groups like yours, replace them with all conservatives. Connie Burton, Don Huffine, Bob Hall, Dominic Campbell, Brian Burnwell, Larry Taylor, Brandon Craig, I can go down the list. It's amazing. So your voice is being heard. Now, did we get it all right? No. Are there things we still want to do? Yes. Let me name a few. Number one, we have to reduce property taxes so you can afford to stay in your home and stay in your business. Every other year, and tell me really when I'm running short on time, I want to take some Q&A. There's so much to talk about. And we've come a long way, so we're here if you're okay. And if they charge you more, I'll write a bigger check. Every year the House or Senate leads. This is our year to lead with the budget. So the budget will be Senate Bill number 1. Well, Senate Bill 2 will be our property tax, I don't know what we're calling it, but our property tax bill. And here's, I think, where we're heading. And we've had hearings all over the state, including up here, but a great hearing in Tarrant County. Right now, there's an 8% rollback rate for schools, cities, and counties. If the budgets grow more than 8%, then you can get a petition together and you can ask for a vote. It never happens. It never happens. By the way, that 8% doesn't count new construction, so the 8's really high. And I understand our county commissioners, our county judges, our local officials, our mayors, our superintendents have a hard job. But so do you as the hardworking taxpayers who want to stay in your home or keep your business. So what we want to do is change that rollback rate from 8% to 4%, so that moving forward, your property taxes can never grow more than 4%. And if they do, there's an automatic vote of the people. Yeah. That's what we want to do. And I have said, and I know I'm being taped somewhere, I see a camera out there. I've said, if we have to stay there until this time next year to pass that bill, I'm all in. I'm willing to stay. It's important. People are being taxed out of their homes and out of their businesses. Now, next, some people give me a hard time about this bill, even some Republicans, not in this room. But I intend to be sure that Texas does not allow any man to go into the bathroom with a woman. We're going to keep them out of the bathroom. You know, this whole idea of discrimination. What are we doing? We're discriminating against someone who thinks they are someone. I mean, what happens when, I mean, if you think about this logic, in other words, based on their birth certificate, they think they're someone else, and so we don't want to discriminate against them. If this is allowed to take hold in America, I'm waiting for the first trans senior. Who's a trans senior?
Yeah,
it's a 45-year-old who says, I feel like I'm 65 and I want my Social Security now because my birth certificate doesn't count. And you laugh. But did we really think we'd have to pass a bill to keep ninth grade boys from showering with ninth grade girls? The good news is, you know, we fought that battle in Fort Worth, and I came up and spoke because you didn't have a voice, because there were no meeting, and we got them to back down. We took on the president, and I called him out for his 30 pieces of silver that we will not be blackmailed. If they want to hold their money, we'll find a way to find our own money to replace the federal money. So we will stand tall for that. I said to a friend of mine who's, I've known her for a long time, she's just a diehard liberal, and she said, Dan, I don't understand. She said, why are you against transgender people? I said, first of all, we're not. We don't want anyone bullied. We don't want anyone harassed, especially the kids in the schools. But we're not worried about transgender people going into the ladies' room. We're worried about sexual predators taking advantage of that policy to go into the ladies' room, just like they do on the internet to go after innocent victims. And she got it. So we're going to fight for that. It's just one of those hills you die on. If we as Republicans in Texas can't stand up for that, then we can't stand up for anything. And by the way, it's not this single little issue. This is a part of the grand plan by the political left to undermine everything that's right about family and church. It's all about that. Make no mistake. School choice. School choice is really important. I don't have time to do this real fast, but James and Jonathan, would you give me 4 chairs up here on the stage real fast? I know my time's running out. I want to give you the reason why. I said thank you, Tony. for school choice. And Jonathan, one for three, and Tony and James, why don't you sit in those first three seats over there? Yeah, go sit there. Okay, we're going to pretend they're students at school. Oh, Jonathan, you have a substitute teacher today. His name is Byron Cook. Don't expect to get any big grades. Byron, if you're watching, well, you're watching. There's not a student in this seat. And why is that? Because this student's parents are rich and can afford to send their child to a private school. Does anyone in here think we should pass a bill to prohibit parents who are well off enough to send their child to a private school? I've asked this question even in pure Democrat crowds, never got a hand raised. James, he's in public school. His parents just hit the lottery. They decided they don't like James being in this failing public school. Most of our schools do a fine job, but we have about 10% of them, about 900 campuses are going to get an F. James, your parents just took you out of school. Go ahead. Go back to your bedroom and play with your toys. Whatever you're doing. Did the school lose any money because of James? Because they're not teaching him. Okay. Now, Tony, you're in the military, right? Okay. Your dad's in the military. Big Tony. He just got transferred to Virginia. Should anyone pass a bill that says he can't go with his dad because if he leaves the school it could cost that money? Of course not. Tony, go with your dad to Virginia. Did the school district lose any money because Tony's not there? No. Because they don't have to teach him. Now we get down, as we always do, to Jonathan. Jonathan's parents aren't rich. Jonathan's parents didn't hit the lottery. Jonathan's parents didn't get a job in another state or another county. Jonathan is in one of our failing schools that's been a failure for year after year after year in our inner cities, and some of them in our rural areas. And his parents would like for Jonathan to go to a school where he can have a shot at the American dream by getting a quality education. But he's not allowed. His parents don't have any money. They didn't move. They didn't hit the lottery. So why do we deprive the right of that student and his parents to have the same opportunities of the three? Because when Jonathan, you may have a seat, when Jonathan is able to leave and go to a school of his parents' choice, the school district didn't lose any money on him either, just like they didn't lose on the other three. I know there was a question, and I saw it, I'll answer in advance. The Homeschool Coalition, Tim Lambert, president of the homeschoolers, support our education savings accounts. We are not going to do anything that would ever put any strings attached on homeschoolers, period, end of story. In fact, when I ran for the Senate, the only group that endorsed me were the homeschoolers. The first group that endorsed me for lieutenant governor were the homeschoolers. I'm speaking at the homeschool gala Saturday night. That doesn't mean of our 100,000 roughly homeschool parents that some don't disagree, but I can assure you that will not happen. The reason it's important for Jonathan and all his friends, because we have a situation in this country of have and have-nots, because there's no education. And with no education, there's no hope because there's no job. I'm not saying that's the root of all the violence in our inner cities, but it's a big part of it. We will not have a safe America for your kids and grandkids. We will not have a prosperous America for your kids and grandkids where they're not taxed for everything they make. We will not have a future in Texas if we don't get about 300,000 kids out of the 6 million we have in Texas out of these failing schools. Where in Dallas, Texas, without exaggeration, I'm rounding off the numbers, for every child that goes to college, 200 go to prison.
Oh, wow.
Zip code after zip code after zip code after zip code. And you say, wow, have you looked at these schools? And what happens when these kids go to charters? They flourish, if it's a good charter. What happens when they get an opportunity, if they're homeschooled? They flourish. What happens when they get a chance to go to a Catholic school or a Jewish school or a Protestant school? They flourish. This is about doing the right thing. And we as Republicans, if we don't stand for that issue, then not only are we not doing the right thing by that child and that family, but we're putting ourselves and our state and our country in harm's way. Because That guy on the end is going to get pretty angry if he's on the 3 at some point. In fact, I see a lot of anger out there. So a lot of issues we're going to fight for next session. It's going to be a tough session. Money will be tight. You know, Obamacare is killing us. You know, I met with the, 1 minute and I'll close up. I met with the independent insurance agents in Houston a couple of weeks ago. And they told me in Houston, I don't know what the numbers are for here, they're gathering me numbers. In Houston, if you have Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and you're on your own policy, which about a third of policy members are not through their work, but their own, premiums in January go up 60%. Obamacare is breaking our bank. If I had a chart here, a pie chart, last session, in round numbers here, some reporter watching the table said, well, he was off by 2 points or 3 points. I'm not using my notes here. If you look at our budget last session, roughly 45% was education and 45% was healthcare. That's 90%, 10% is public safety, it's 9% of our budget. And healthcare has grown from about 15% to this 45% in a very short period of time. Our Medicaid rolls, that we didn't buy into the Medicaid system, Perry was right about that, but it's still exploding because of the Affordable Care Act, which is not affordable for anyone. Right. So it's a real big challenge for us. It's going to, like the Pac-Man, most of us are old enough to remember that, eating everything in the budget. So it's going to be a challenging session, but a tough session, but we're up to the task. We have great conservative senators, there are great conservative House members, and I have a great relationship with our governor, and we're going to get these things done. Or we're going to, let's say if we lose, the winning side's going to limp off the battlefield, because we're in it for the fight. We have to win these battles. I'm blessed to be your Lieutenant Governor. I'm grateful, and I thank you all very much. I don't know if there's any time for questions. Oh, you can? Okay. Let's take some questions.
Okay, we're going to